They say she's ugly and looks like she came from some backwoods town. She's the wife of that handsome CEO, right? I saw her wedding photo online. Ugh, she's even worse in person. Those were just some of the cruel whispers echoing through the lobby of Beaumont Corporation as Marcy walked through the main entrance. Dressed in an oversized white dress, thick-rimmed glasses resting on her nose, her naturally curly hair untamed with bangs framing her face, and braces on her teeth, visible when she smiled at a few who politely greeted her. "Who's that?" asked one employee, furrowing her brows. "Isn't that Mr. Sanders' wife?" another whispered, quickly checking the viral wedding photo on her phone to confirm. "Yep, that's her. She looks even worse than in the photo. And what is she even wearing? Looks like she just stepped out of a thrift store from Alabama or something." Laughter followed. The rumor was that she was from a rural town, that Mr. Sanders, the ultra-successful CEO of one of the country's top corporations, had married a small-town girl. People found it hard to believe. They stared. No one approached her. Some employees even discreetly took photos, treating her appearance as a spectacle, an oddity. Their eyes were wide, jaws nearly dropping in disbelief. "That's the woman he married," they murmured. Marcy kept walking, each step heavy with the weight of their eyes, and their cruel murmurs cutting into her like tiny knives. But she pressed forward, holding her bag tightly and forcing a faint smile that masked the deep discomfort in her chest. "Ma'am Marcy, Mr. Sanders is expecting you in his office," the receptionist finally said, with a polite tone. She nodded and stepped into the elevator. The momentary silence gave her a brief sense of relief, until she heard one last biting comment just before the doors closed. Why would he even go for someone like her? She hasn't accomplished anything like he has. And it was true. Compared to Samuel Sanders, CEO of Beaumont Corporation, magna cum laude from Harvard Business School, Silicon Valley success story, Forbes featured leader in tech and logistics across the US and Asia, she was no one. Marcy had never even come close to his accomplishments. She wasn't from wealth. She didn't move in high circles. She hadn't graduated from any Ivy League school. And to those in this building, to those whispering behind her back, she didn't belong in his world. She saw her reflection in the mirrored panel of the elevator. She knew she wasn't beautiful. She never had the flair for fashion or makeup. She accepted that. But that didn't stop the sting of being judged, of being measured and always falling short in their eyes. When she reached the executive floor, the sleekness of the environment hit her. The glass panels being automatically cleaned, expensive artwork on the walls, a level of sophistication that screamed prestige. At the end of the hallway was Samuel's office. His secretary, a stunning young woman in a sleek black suit, her dark hair in a neat bun, looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Mrs. Sanders," she greeted with a soft bow. "Are you here to see Mr. Sanders?" Marcy nodded. "Yes. Is he in?" "He's in the conference room right now, but the meeting should be wrapping up soon. Please wait inside his office," the secretary replied, checking her tablet before opening the door for her. The moment Marcy stepped inside, the rich scent of designer cologne and cold, purified air greeted her. The office was immaculate, charcoal grey tones mixed with warm wood, everything in order, not a speck of dust. It was a space that reflected power and precision. She walked towards Samuel's desk and noticed a framed wedding photo on display. He was in a sharp black tuxedo, smiling. She, in a simple gown, had looked terrified that day. Their wedding had been an arrangement, born out of family ties and corporate deals, not love. But here the photo wasn't hidden in a drawer. It was out in the open, on display, a statement. She bit her lip as warmth stirred in her heart. Despite what others said, that they didn't look right together, Samuel had never tried to hide her. To her left, she spotted a small bookshelf labeled Fictional Reads. Her gaze softened. There were romance novels, fantasy series, even a few obscure titles she'd always loved. She ran her fingers across the spines. Samuel knew. He knew how much she loved reading. He'd added this shelf for her. She picked up Pride and Prejudice, her favorite, and sank into the plush cream sofa. As she flipped through the pages, the weight in her chest began to lift. She was so engrossed that she didn't notice when the door opened, until the sound of it closing behind her snapped her back to reality. Samuel walked in, tall, commanding in a navy blue suit, expression serious as he gave a string of instructions to his secretary behind him. "Handle the legal follow-up with the contracts. I want that pushed through immediately," he said. "Yes, sir," the secretary replied. He stopped mid-stride when he noticed Marcy. His lips curled into a soft smile. She stood, quickly brushing her dress and setting her book aside. "Hi," she greeted, her voice a bit shaky but trying to smile. Without a word, he stepped forward and kissed her forehead, a small gesture, but one he'd never failed to do since they were married. It still made her heart race. "Have you been waiting long?" he asked. "Not really," she replied with a smile. He sighed and nodded. "Sorry about the meeting. I thought it would be quick, but there were more issues than expected." "It's fine," she said. "I was reading." "You liked the books I had them put in?" She smiled and nodded. "Yes. Some of them I haven't read yet." "Good. If there's anything else you want, just let me know. I'll have them get it for you." "Thank you," she whispered. Samuel turned back to his secretary. "Mia, follow through with what I told you. Review it before I sign anything. I'm heading out early." "Yes, sir," Mia replied. He picked up his phone, walked back to Marcy, with that same tender gaze that always made her knees weak. "Let's go." She followed, but he stopped to place his hand gently on her waist. Mia gave her a polite smile and a respectful nod as they passed. They walked in silence through the hallway, but it was clear that the office staff, who had once gossiped and whispered, now only watched in stunned silence. Some lowered their eyes, others couldn't stop staring, but Samuel didn't care. His hand remained on Marcy's waist, proud and protective. He held the car door open for her. "Thank you," she whispered as she got in. He settled into the driver's seat beside her, glanced her way to check her seatbelt, and then started the engine. As the car glided forward, he finally spoke. "Let's pick up gifts for our parents before heading to the restaurant." She nodded. "Okay," she replied softly, gazing out the window. The silence between them was peaceful, not awkward, not cold, just still and safe. Samuel's parents had just flown in from their retirement home in Colorado. As luck would have it, Marcy's parents were also in the city for a business meeting, so both sides agreed to have a family dinner. It had been a while since everyone had been together. "How was your day?" Samuel asked as they drove. She looked at him and smiled faintly. "It was okay. I helped around the house earlier. There wasn't much to do, and Nina's still out of town, so I stopped by the cafe and got my favorite pastry before coming to your office." He nodded. "Good." She turned to him. "How about your meeting?" He sighed. "Stressful, as usual. There was a disagreement over the marketing budget, but we got through it. It's always tough when department heads can't see eye to eye." Marcy simply listened, even if she didn't understand all the corporate jargon. Over time, she had gotten used to hearing his stories, and each one brought them closer. It made her feel included in his world. After shopping for gifts for their parents, they headed to the restaurant where the dinner was arranged. Holding hands as they walked in, Samuel carried a shopping bag in his other hand. A staff member opened the door for them, bowing slightly. Some waitstaff turned their heads and smiled politely, but a few pairs of eyes lingered, examining Marcy from head to toe with thinly veiled curiosity. No one said anything, probably because she was with Samuel, but she could feel it. The stares, the silent evaluations. It stung. When they reached the VIP room, the staff held the door open. Samuel's mother stood up the moment she saw Marcy. She looked elegant in a soft beige dress, the kind of woman who clearly came from old money. "Marcy!" she exclaimed happily, and rushed to her. Before Marcy could react, Samuel's mom had embraced her warmly. She had always adored Marcy and treated her as one of her own. "I missed you, sweetheart. We hardly get to see you anymore," she said, as she lovingly stroked Marcy's hair. "I missed you too," Marcy replied. "I'm really happy you're here." Samuel stood nearby, quietly watching them. Marcy then greeted Samuel's father with a respectful hug before embracing her own parents, who were both smiling warmly. Samuel followed and shook hands with her parents. "How have you both been?" he asked as he handed over the gift bag. "We've been good, son," her father said, while accepting the bag. "You really didn't have to go through all this trouble." "We appreciate it," her mum added. Once everyone was seated around the long dining table, the dinner began. The food was exquisite: roast duck, filet mignon, creamy mashed potatoes, fresh salad, and a variety of carefully chosen desserts. Laughter and stories flowed around the table. Her father spoke of their expanding business in Georgia, sharing how they were opening a new plant and hoping to show it to Marcy and Samuel someday. "We'll definitely visit when it's ready," Samuel said with a respectful nod. Not to be outdone, Samuel's parents shared updates about their life in Colorado, mentoring local youth, helping community projects, and how much they missed being in the city. Then the topic shifted to Marcy and Samuel. "You know," Samuel's mum began, looking at them fondly, "your wedding anniversary is coming up. Can you believe how fast time flies?" Marcy smiled. It really did feel fast. She remembered how nervous she was that day, afraid he might not even show up at the altar. And now, their first anniversary was approaching. "What are your plans for it?" Marcy's father asked. She glanced at Samuel, who lifted his wine glass with a soft smile. "It's a surprise," he replied casually. Before the mood could settle, Marcy's mum playfully asked, "So, when can we expect a grandchild?" Marcy choked slightly on her cheesecake and reached for water. Her mother and Samuel's mother giggled, and even Samuel chuckled softly. "When Marcy's ready," he answered. "I've always been ready to be a father." Her cheeks turned warm. She did want to be a mother someday, but only when she knew Samuel loved her too. "Well, we're excited whenever it happens," Samuel's dad chimed in. "But no pressure. We'll wait until the time is right." "Thank you," Marcy said quietly, still blushing. Samuel's hand remained gently clasped around hers under the table. In all the months they'd been married, one thing was certain. Samuel had been a good husband. Their marriage had started with no promises of love, no sweet vows at the altar, just an agreement between two families. Yet he never treated her like an obligation. He always showed her kindness and made her feel valued, even with his demanding schedule. That, above all, made her fall for him more with each passing day. Like today, she had just woken up and was still in her silk robe when she walked downstairs. Their housekeeper, Rosa, greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ma'am Marcy. Breakfast is ready," she said cheerfully. "Good morning, Rosa. Where's Samuel?" Marcy asked. "He left early for a meeting, but he cooked breakfast for you before he left. It's on the table, just like he asked." Marcy's smile widened. Despite his workload and all the people he managed, he had found time to cook for her. "Thank you, Rosa," she said, her voice soft with emotion. Rosa nodded and returned to her work as Marcy walked to the dining area. There it was, fried rice, bacon, ham, and pancakes. Her favorites. Next to the plate was a pink sticky note. "Don't skip breakfast. See you later." She smiled again, touched by the small gesture. There were countless beautiful women more fit to be with someone like Samuel Sanders, but he chose her, and now she knew these small, consistent things were what made her fall deeper. By noon, the house was quiet. Marcy had nothing to do and was starting to feel restless. She sat on the veranda, watching the leaves flutter in the breeze, but even the calm air couldn't lift the heaviness surrounding her. Eventually, she decided to go for a swim. She put on a simple swimsuit that contrasted beautifully with her fair, porcelain-like skin. She might not be stylish or striking, but her smooth complexion was undeniably lovely. As she walked toward the pool, she called for the housekeeper. "Rosa, can you help me put sunscreen on my back?" "Of course, Ma'am," Rosa said, taking the bottle. "You have such beautiful skin, ma'am, like porcelain," she said, while gently applying the lotion. Marcy smiled. "Thank you, Rosa." She slipped into the cool water and began to swim. Over and over, she let herself drift, finding peace in the silence. She didn't realize someone had been watching her quietly. Nearby, Samuel stood near the edge of the pool, observing every stroke, every motion, his expression unreadable, his thoughts deep. As Marcy emerged from the water, she grabbed a towel and began drying her face and hair. She didn't notice him approach until she turned, and her eyes widened. "Samuel," she gasped. He stood just a few feet away, wearing an open-collared shirt with the top button undone. She slipped slightly on the wet tiles and let out a small cry, but he moved quickly and caught her around the waist. "Careful," he whispered, holding her firmly. Her heart pounded. She wasn't sure if it was from the shock or the intensity in his eyes. "Sorry," she murmured, unable to look him in the eye. "You startled me." Samuel smiled, shaking his head gently. "It's okay. Good thing I caught you." But that wasn't what unsettled her. It was how close they were, his body warm against hers, her skin tingling where he held her. They'd been this close before. He'd seen her like this before. Still, she wasn't used to it. "I'll go change," she said quickly, her voice strained. He nodded, though his eyes lingered on her as she walked away. Each step felt heavy under his gaze. In their room, she went straight to the bathroom and turned on the cold shower, letting the water wash over her. It calmed the heat rising to her cheeks. Afterward, she put on a soft cotton dress, dried her hair lightly, brushed it, and wore her glasses again before going downstairs. In the living room, she found Samuel sitting with an iPad. He looked up as soon as he saw her. Their eyes met. She hesitated, not out of annoyance, but nervousness. Time felt like it slowed again. She walked to the couch and sat beside him carefully, her movements measured but unable to hide her slight smile. She was happy he had come home early. "I didn't know you'd be home this soon," she said, studying his profile. He turned to her, his eyes soft. "I planned it. It's been a while since I spent a full day here with you." Her smile grew. She couldn't hide it anymore. Whether she admitted it or not, she was happy. They saw each other every night, even shared a bed. But this, having him home all day, was different. She decided to make lunch special. She helped the cook prepare the dishes. While they worked, she felt someone enter the kitchen. She turned. It was Samuel, standing silently, watching her. "We're almost done," she said, as she wiped the edge of the stove. He nodded and sat on a stool at the kitchen counter, arms resting on the table, eyes never leaving her. A few moments later, they sat down to eat. Quiet filled the beginning of the meal as they savored both the food and each other's company. "Starting now," Samuel said as he poured water into her glass. "I'm setting aside at least one day a week to stay home and have meals with you. I've been too focused on work lately. I've been losing time that should have been yours." She turned to him. Their eyes met briefly. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded and lowered her gaze quickly, hoping he wouldn't notice the blush creeping onto her cheeks. She didn't say it aloud, but her heart overflowed with joy. And it was true. That afternoon, Samuel stayed home. He worked in the living room, taking calls and checking his laptop, but he was there. From time to time, he looked up at her and asked if she was okay. Simple things, but they made her feel seen. Weeks passed, and it became routine. One day a week, Samuel would be fully present. He'd join her for breakfast, help cook, and sometimes they'd watch movies together in the evening. It wasn't constant, but it was enough to remind her she wasn't forgotten. One afternoon, Marcy was reading a book in the living room when she got a message from her friend, Sophia. "Girl, I can't believe this. You're the headline in the news again. I'm so mad." She clicked the link. At first, the article seemed fine. It showed a photo of Samuel at a charity event. He was smiling, holding hands with her. But then she read the headline, "Successful CEO Samuel Sanders marries an ordinary woman. Doesn't match, say netizens." Her smile vanished. She scrolled down. He seems like a kind CEO, but his taste in women is questionable. Looks like his wife is just a maid. What a waste. He's rich and handsome, and that's who he married? This gives us hope. Ugly girls can still bag rich, hot guys. She exhaled shakily. The comments were like tiny knives to her heart. Then her phone rang. It was Sophia. "Hello?" she answered softly. "Why are you so calm, Marcy?" "You should be furious," Sophia snapped. "Have you read that article? It's disgusting. They're using you and Samuel for clout." "I've read it," Marcy replied, her voice barely audible. "And you're okay with this? Call Samuel. Have him shut it down. They should be sued for defamation." "It's fine, Sophia. Let it go. I'm used to it." "What? Girl, no. You can't keep letting this happen. They're humiliating you, using your name, mocking your appearance, and you're just letting it slide." Marcy stared at the article on her screen. The title was loud. The insults, louder. She whispered, "Nothing good will come from stirring things up. I don't want to stress Samuel. He already has enough to deal with." "But what about you?" Sophia argued, her voice full of fire. "They're trampling your dignity, and you're just staying quiet." "I just want a peaceful life," Marcy said, her tone soft. "No fights, no drama." "I get that, but silence isn't always peace, Marcy. You deserve better." Marcy didn't answer. She looked at the photo of her and Samuel in the article, together, but now feeling so far apart. "Are you going to tell him?" Sophia asked, calmer now. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't want to bother him with this. He might think it's not a big deal." "It's a big deal to you," Sophia said firmly. "That's what matters." Marcy only said, "Let it go." And Sophia, frustrated but resigned, could only sigh as the call ended. On the other side of the city, Samuel sat at his office desk, reviewing department reports when there was a knock on the door. "Come in," he called without looking up. Mia, his executive secretary, entered, composed but clearly carrying heavy news. Samuel looked up and immediately noticed the tension in her face. "Sir," she began as she approached his desk, "I have something unpleasant to report." His brows furrowed. He set the papers aside and gave her his full attention. "What is it?" Mia took a breath and handed him a tablet. "There are articles circulating again, sir. Misleading and malicious pieces about you and your wife." Samuel's jaw tightened the moment he heard Marcy mentioned. He snatched the tablet and scrolled. The headline read, "CEO Samuel Sanders ties the knot. But with her? The most eligible bachelor in business is now married. but netizens are questioning the choice. His wife, rarely seen in public, is described as plain, quiet, and overwhelmingly ordinary. Tweets flashed across the screen. I thought he'd marry someone from high society, or at least a supermodel like his ex, Ayana. Such a downgrade. Samuel's face darkened as he read. His jaw clenched, his eyes burned with quiet fury. Who published this? He demanded. An online tabloid, sir, but it's already been picked up by other media. Social pages are reposting it, screenshots, memes. It's spreading quickly. Take it down, he said coldly. Call legal. File harassment charges against every outlet that shared this trash. I want names. I want accountability. Mia nodded immediately. Yes, sir. I'll loop in Attorney Ramirez and begin drafting a legal complaint. Make sure every party responsible is held liable. I don't care if it costs me millions. No one gets to humiliate my wife like this. Understood, sir. Mia left swiftly. Samuel remained seated, scrolling through more articles, each more vile than the last. So this is the woman he chose? A nobody? A publicity stunt? She looks like a rural maid. This can't be real. His anger surged. He stood abruptly and looked out his office window, fists clenched. That night, the city lights glowed, but his office remained dim, lit only by his laptop and the skyline. A FaceTime notification popped up. His mother was calling. He answered quickly. The screen showed both his parents sitting on the veranda of their Colorado home, teacups in hand. You're still at the office? His mom asked, her tone concerned. I had to stay longer, he replied flatly, handling something urgent. Company matter? His dad asked. Or those articles again? Samuel's face hardened. Articles, pure filth. They're dragging Marcy through the mud like she's some kind of joke. We saw one, his mother said. That's why we called. It's disgusting. He exhaled slowly, trying to keep his composure. I'm already taking legal action. These people won't get away with it. Good, his father said sternly. Don't let them degrade her. Marcy is a good woman. She doesn't deserve any of this. She's the kindest person I know, Samuel said quietly, voice thick with emotion. And now strangers, people who don't even know her, are tearing her apart. He pressed his fingers against his temple, struggling to stay composed. I won't let her see any of it. She doesn't need that stress. She'll find out eventually, his mum warned gently. Then I'll deal with it then, but while I still can, I'll protect her from it. She always tells me to let things go, he added. But that's not who I am. I don't stay silent when someone disrespects my wife. That's right, his dad agreed. And while you're doing that, don't forget, she needs your emotional support too. She needs to know she's not alone. Back at home, Marcy sat in bed, wide awake. A lamp glowed beside her as she tried to read. She kept glancing at the clock, hoping to hear the front door open. Minutes passed. Finally, the bedroom door creaked open. Samuel stepped in, still wearing his suit, tie loosened. He froze when he saw her awake. You're still up? He asked, brow furrowed. I was waiting for you, she replied, setting the book down. He approached and kissed her forehead gently. Sorry, I had to fix some things at the office. She smiled faintly. It's okay. I'll take a quick shower, he said, heading to the bathroom. Marcy leaned back against the headboard, not bothering to pick up her book again. She waited. A few minutes later, Samuel returned in gym shorts, drying his hair with a towel. He climbed into bed beside her. They lay quietly for several moments until he finally broke the silence. Do you still scroll through social media these days? He asked gently, turning slightly to face her. Not really, she replied. I prefer reading now. He nodded but didn't speak again right away. His silence felt heavy. Why? She asked. Is something wrong? No, he said softly, but the weight in his voice said otherwise. She didn't press him further. If he had something to say, she would wait until he was ready. She turned toward him slightly and offered a gentle smile. "Let's sleep." Samuel pulled the covers over them and wrapped his arm beneath her head, letting her rest on his arm. That was how they slept that night. Days passed, and Samuel never brought up what had been troubling him. He said nothing about the articles, nothing about his fury. One morning, a week later, Marcy got ready for their usual Sunday church service. She wore a simple cream-colored dress that fell to her knees. Her thick, curly hair was styled in a neat half-updo, and she wore her glasses. No makeup, except a light-tinted balm on her lips. As she descended the stairs, she saw Samuel standing in the spacious living room. He wore a fitted black polo shirt, tucked into black pants, looking like he'd just stepped out of a fashion magazine. He looked at her, lips curving into a small smile. "Ready?" he asked, jingling the car keys. She nodded and walked to him. As always, he opened the car door for her. She settled into the passenger seat while he got in on the driver's side. He leaned over, checked her seat belt, and once secured, pulled away from the driveway. Their faces were briefly close during the moment, and when their eyes met, he smiled warmly. "Comfortable?" he asked. She nodded with a soft, "mm-hmm." The ride to church was quiet at first. Both seemed to savor the stillness. Then Samuel spoke, eyes still on the road. "Afterward, is there anywhere you'd like to go?" Marcy thought for a moment and smiled. Maybe a nature park? I just want somewhere peaceful to walk." "I know just the place," he said. "I'll take you there." At the church, Samuel pulled into a parking space. Once again, he got out and walked around to open her door. She stepped out, and he immediately took her hand. Together, they walked into the building. Several people turned to look at them. Some lingered a little longer in their stares, but neither Samuel nor Marcy paid them any attention. They continued forward, hand in hand. Inside, the church was filled with people. They sat side by side, both facing the altar as the priest began his homily. "And love," the priest said, in a calm but firm voice, "is not just for those who are easy to love. We are called to love those who hurt us, those we don't understand, and especially the ones given to us to share life with. Love is a choice, one we must stand by every single day. It's not always easy, but it is the path to peace." Marcy turned to look at Samuel. He remained still, listening quietly, but his grip on her hand tightened, stronger, more reassuring, like he was silently agreeing with every word. When it was time to light candles and approach the altar for communion, they rose together. Samuel guided her gently forward. After receiving the host, they knelt side by side and bowed their heads in silent prayer. The priest approached them, smiling gently. He placed both hands on their heads and murmured a blessing. "May God bless the two of you. Two souls, one path. May your love be strengthened through every trial." They thanked him and returned quietly to their seats. After the service, they walked to the side courtyard where people lit candles. They each took one, lit it, and placed it at the foot of the large wooden cross. Marcy closed her eyes and prayed deeply. After a moment, she felt Samuel's arms wrap gently around her waist. He pulled her close, resting her against his chest. They stood like that, both with eyes closed. She knew Samuel had always been a man of faith, quiet but deeply spiritual. If he hadn't been the only child and heir to the Sanders family, he might have become a priest. But life had chosen a different path for him. Still, he never missed a Sunday Mass. And now, as her husband, he never knelt alone. She was always beside him. After the Mass, they strolled through the church's green courtyard. The air was cool and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers. Samuel held her hand firmly, like he had no plans of letting go. Children played on the lawn. Elderly couples rested on wooden benches beneath the trees. Other married pairs walked nearby, just like them. Marcy glanced up at him and smiled gently. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly, a note of hesitation in her voice. Samuel turned to her. His brows lifted slightly, but his eyes were warm. "Of course, what is it?" "What did you pray for earlier?" she asked, curious. "You took quite a while. I finished mine before you did." Samuel chuckled lightly, but his eyes glimmered as he looked at her. "I prayed for our well-being, for our marriage, for you, for us to be healthy and happy together. I asked God to help me stay focused on what really matters, even when life gets overwhelming. I asked Him to give me the strength to protect you, to understand you, to treasure you, even when I fall short. I prayed for peace, not just for us as a couple, but for your heart too." He stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I know I'm not perfect, Marcy," he whispered, "but when I knelt there earlier, all I could think about was you. And I asked God to help me become the kind of man you'll never have to question. I just want to be someone you can always count on, through everything." Marcy was still, absorbing every word. She felt the weight of his sincerity, and at the same time, a gentle comfort. Then Samuel asked, "What about you? What did you pray for?" She smiled slightly and gave his hands a soft squeeze. "I prayed for us too," she replied, "for our love to grow deeper even when things get hard. I prayed that no matter what comes, we never forget to hold each other's hand, just like this." She looked him in the eyes. "I asked God to give me patience, strength, and understanding, so I can love you the way you deserve. I also prayed for your protection, for your peace, and for your heart to always find its way back to me, no matter what." Samuel didn't respond right away. Instead, he leaned down and kissed the back of her hand. After church, just as Samuel had promised, they drove to a nature park just outside the city. It wasn't crowded, peaceful, shaded by tall trees with a cool breeze rustling through the leaves. The scent of grass was fresh, and birds soared gently overhead. Samuel walked beside her quietly, his hand never letting go of hers. "You like it here?" he asked, glancing at the landscape. "I love it," she answered with a smile. "It feels like I can finally breathe, like everything I was worried about just disappeared." "Good," he said, smiling back. "That's exactly why I brought you here." At the end of the trail was a small ice cream stand. They walked over, and Marcy lit up like a child as she picked her favorite flavor, strawberry. Samuel chose vanilla. When the vendor handed them their cones, Marcy took a bite too quickly and got a dab of ice cream on her lip. Samuel laughed. "Here," he said softly, wiping it with a tissue. "You're still messy even with dessert." They found a bench under a large tree and sat together. The midday sun was warm, but the shade and breeze made it comfortable. Their ice cream slowly melted as they relaxed, neither of them in a rush to finish. As they sat there, laughing quietly over nothing in particular, Marcy looked at Samuel. For a moment, everything felt right, like they were a real couple, not one brought together by arrangement, but by love. She leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for today." Samuel tilted his head so it rested gently against hers. "You don't have to thank me. I'd bring you here every week if it means you'll smile like that." The past few months had been peaceful. Samuel made her feel like she mattered more than work. Not once had he made her feel like an obligation, which was why, as their first wedding anniversary approached, Marcy felt nothing but warmth and anticipation. A week before the date, Samuel told her they were going on a trip, but wouldn't say where. He only asked her to pack summer outfits. She followed without question. On the day itself, when they opened the door to their suite in Bali, Marcy froze in awe. White and gold balloons floated inside, each with a tiny note hanging by a ribbon. Rose petals were scattered across the floor, leading to a bed adorned with a heart-shaped arrangement of petals. Fresh flowers filled the room, and from the window, the ocean shimmered peacefully beneath a clear sky. Samuel turned to her, wearing a simple white linen shirt and beige slacks, a soft smile on his lips. "Happy anniversary," he said. Marcy couldn't speak for a moment. Her heart felt like it had turned to air. "Thank you," she whispered, throwing her arms around him. "Thank you for making this marriage feel like a blessing," she added. That evening, after some rest and dressing up, Samuel brought her to an elegant restaurant with a panoramic view of the sea. Though it was night, the waves glimmered in the distance thanks to the soft, ambient lighting. A private table awaited them, glowing with candles and fairy lights. A violinist played in the background. A bouquet of red and white roses sat in the center. Samuel pulled out her chair, and once she was seated, handed her the flowers. "Happy anniversary, love," he said. She smiled, hugging the bouquet close. "This is too much, Samuel." "It's never too much for you," he replied. Dinner passed in gentle conversation, laughter, and quiet stars. Marcy felt every moment deeply, the way he looked at her, the effort he made, and just when she thought the surprises were done, Samuel stood and led her toward the terrace overlooking the coastline. The wind was soft, the night cool. Then he reached into his pocket and handed her a small box. She blinked. "What's this?" "Another gift," he said. "Open it." Inside was an elegant necklace with a small heart-shaped diamond pendant. "Samuel, it's beautiful," she said, stunned. "I saw it and thought of you," he replied, taking the necklace out of the box. She turned slightly, brushing her hair aside. He clasped the chain around her neck. "There, perfect," he whispered. He took her hand and guided her to a lounge area at the edge of the terrace. Just as they sat, a sudden boom filled the air. Fireworks lit up the sky above the ocean, bursts of color dancing in the night, reflected in her eyes. Marcy gasped. "Samuel!" "I know you love fireworks," he said, watching her face instead of the sky. "So I had these prepared just for tonight." Her eyes welled with tears, not from sadness but overwhelming joy. "Thank you," she whispered, leaning into him. But the night wasn't over. She pulled away slightly, reached into her purse, and brought out her own small box. "My turn," she said, smiling as she handed it to him. He raised a brow, curious. "You got me something?" "Of course. Open it." Inside was a sleek silver chain necklace, simple, classy, masculine. Its pendant was engraved with an M for Marcy. "You like it?" she asked. "I love it," he said, without hesitation. She helped him put it on, fingers brushing his neck. "Happy anniversary. Thank you, love." Suddenly, he pulled her close, hands around her waist, and kissed her deeply. She froze at first, surprised, but melted into the kiss just as another wave of fireworks exploded behind them, celebrating a love that had grown in silence, now bursting into light. Months passed after their anniversary trip to Bali. Marcy thought things would ease up, but reality turned out to be different. When Samuel left for a business trip to Europe, the responsibilities fell entirely on her. She had to represent him at charity events and corporate functions. Day after day, she smiled, shook hands, listened to speeches, and spoke with people she hardly knew. Behind each smile, her body ached, her eyes were heavy, and silently, her heart longed for one thing, to go home and be wrapped in a familiar embrace. Each step out of the event hall felt heavier than the last. At one event, her friend Sophia waited for her in the corner. She looked uncertain, phone in hand, hesitating before speaking. "Marcy," she said cautiously, "I think you should see this." She handed her the screen. A photo. Samuel seated at a restaurant, across from someone very familiar. His ex-girlfriend, Ayanna Stanton, the former Miss World, and the woman he had dated before marrying Marcy. Below the photo, a headline read, "Spotted CEO Samuel Sanders, seen dining with former flame Ayanna Stanton." Are they rekindling the past? But more than the photo, it was the comments that hurt her the most. Finally, he's leaving that maid-looking wife of his. He and Ayanna are perfect together. That other girl was never a match. Even Samuel cheats. So much for true love. Her heart raced. Her hands turned cold. It felt like she was being sliced from the inside. Slow, sharp, and silent. Tears streamed down her cheeks without her realizing. "Marcy," Sophia whispered, alarmed. She moved closer. "I know this is hard to see, but please don't believe everything online. You know that's not who Samuel is." "Why was he with her?" Marcy asked, her voice shaking. "Why?" Sophia pulled her into a hug. "I don't know, but I believe there's a reason. They've been over for a long time, long before you came into his life. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Don't believe the worst." But no words could soothe her. She was exhausted. Her body had been weak for days. She felt dizzy, nauseous, more emotional than usual. "I'm not okay," she finally admitted. "I've been pretending I am, but I'm so tired. And now this?" Sophia gently rubbed her back. "Talk to him. Please talk to Samuel. You know him better than anyone. He's a man of faith, a man of his word. If there's one man I can't imagine cheating, it's him." Marcy looked up at the night sky outside the event hall. It was dark and heavy, as if the clouds mirrored her mind. Still, far in the distance, there was a faint light. The last few days had worn her thin. She had barely slept. Even when she tried to rest, her mind wouldn't stop. She kept replaying the headline, the comments, the image. Her confidence, already fragile, slowly crumbled. That night, she sat on the bed, holding a blanket over her lap, her phone beside her. Then it rang. Samuel's name flashed across the screen. She didn't know whether to feel relief or dread. She answered. "Hello." His voice was tired, deep, with slow breaths in between. "Hey, love, I just finished a meeting. Why are you still awake?" "I couldn't sleep," she said, trying to keep her tone steady. "Are you okay? You sound off. Is everything all right?" She looked out the window. She wanted to ask, wanted to mention the article, Ayanna, everything. But she didn't, not because she feared the answer, but because she lacked the strength. "I'm okay," she answered softly, "just tired." "Are you sure?" he asked again, concern in his tone. "Yeah, I'm fine." Silence followed before he spoke again. "How are the events? Are they treating you well? I heard you attended the Valmoris Gala tonight." "I did. It went fine. Everyone was kind." "But are you really okay doing all these? If it's too much, I can send someone else. You don't have to push yourself." She smiled faintly, even if he couldn't see her. "I want to be there. I'm your wife. I should be the one attending. And I want to support you." Samuel paused again. She could tell he was choosing his words carefully. "Still, I want to be the one beside you, not you facing everything alone. I'll try to finish everything as fast as I can. Maybe I can move my flight earlier. I want to come home and be with you at these events. I hate missing them. I hate missing you." Her chest tightened. Bittersweet emotion bloomed. It hurt, and comforted her at the same time. "It's okay," she said. "I know you're doing your best. I understand." They kept talking, about small things, whether she'd eaten, how the business was doing, updates about the staff. Every minute of that call reminded her of the distance between them, and though she had several chances to bring up the article, She never could. The call ended with a simple, "Good night." Another gala awaited Marcy the following day. Even though she felt physically and emotionally drained, she pushed herself to be presentable. She wore a simple, elegant navy blue dress. Not flashy, not expensive, but decent. She didn't have her hair professionally done. She didn't call for a stylist. She didn't have the energy. Accompanying her was Mia, Samuel's secretary, who had been instructed to watch over her. As soon as they stepped out of the car, Marcy felt the stares, flashes from cameras, lingering eyes, and heavier than all of it, the whispers. As they entered the grand ballroom, she could hear them, like little daggers in the air. "So, that's Sanders' wife? My God, she looks nothing like Ayanna. She just looks like a regular office worker. What did he even see in her? I heard he met with Ayanna again in Europe. Maybe he's going back to her. She's not even on his level." Marcy closed her eyes for a moment as she walked, trying to hold her posture upright, her steps steady. Each word felt like it stripped her of dignity, like she was being undressed by their judgmental stares and vicious tongues. Mia noticed and leaned in to whisper, "Do you want me to say something to them, Mom?" Marcy shook her head. Her voice was soft. "Let them be." Mia frowned. "They're being cruel. If Mr. Sanders hears about this, he won't be happy." Marcy took a deep breath and smiled faintly, though her lips trembled. "I know. But if I react, they'll just think they're right. I'd rather stay quiet." They sat at a table near the edge of the room, still within view of the main stage. Marcy stayed silent, watching people mingle and laugh, as if none of them had just attacked her with their words. She wanted to leave, she wanted to run, but she didn't move, because she was Samuel Sanders' wife, and because she still had her dignity, no matter how much they tried to take it. Mia glanced at her and spoke again, softly. "You don't deserve this, ma'am. If Sir were here, he wouldn't let any of this slide. I just want you to know that." Marcy nodded slowly, voice heavy. "It adds to the stress, Mia. All of it. The events, the expectations, the eyes, the words. I'm so tired." "Have you told Mr. Sanders?" I don't want to add to his worries." The murmurs in the room continued, surrounding her like smoke. No matter where she looked, eyes watched her. Mouths whispered. Smirks crept across faces. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted. Excited murmurs rose. Heads turned. Marcy followed their gaze and saw her. Ayanna Stanton had arrived. "Oh my God, it's her! She's even more beautiful in person. Still the queen." Ayanna wore a fitted gold gown, radiant under the chandelier lights. Her makeup was flawless. She glowed with confidence. She walked toward Marcy, a small, calculated smile on her lips. She leaned in, offering a kiss on the cheek. Marcy froze but accepted it. "Hi, I'm Ayanna," she said sweetly. Then she pulled back, eyes scanning Marcy from head to toe. The smile stayed, but her words carried venom. "I never thought Samuel would fall for someone like this," she said. "But then again, love works in mysterious ways, right?" Marcy swallowed but kept her composure. She gave a faint smile. "Yes, it does." Ayanna walked away, hips swaying as her friends followed, their laughter rising behind her. They passed near Marcy's table, speaking loudly enough to be heard. "That's really her? I thought she was part of the catering team. No wonder he's working late. Must be looking for a way out. Poor thing, she looks so out of place." Marcy felt herself shrinking inside. Her ears burned, her chest tightened. She wanted to disappear. She held her wine glass but couldn't lift it. Her hands were shaking. Mia leaned close again, voice low. "Do you want to leave?" Marcy shook her head. Her smile was weak, but defiant. "I'll stay. I won't let them ruin me." Despite everything, the sadness, the anger, the shame, and the exhaustion, she chose not to fight back. Not because she was weak, but because she refused to lower herself. She stayed seated, swallowing every insult, trying to stay strong, but inside she was breaking. After the gala, the car ride was silent. Mia sat beside her, asking softly if she wanted food or someone to talk to, but Marcy said nothing. Her gaze was fixed outside the window, her eyes full of pain. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Mia asked gently. Marcy didn't respond. Her thoughts were loud, deafening. Ayana's words, the laughter, the glares, they looped endlessly in her head. At home, the house staff greeted them, but Marcy didn't reply. She walked straight upstairs. No tears came, even though she was crumbling inside. Her body was too tired to cry, her heart too overwhelmed, her mind too clouded. The next morning, her body felt like lead. Her head throbbed, the room spun, her chest tightened. She hadn't eaten properly in days. The stress had caught up to her. Still, she tried to get out of bed. She walked toward the stairs, gripping the railing tightly. Halfway down, she stopped. A sharp pain stabbed her head. Her chest constricted. "What's happening?" she whispered, her vision darkening. She lost her grip. Her body tipped forward. "Ma'am Marcy!" one of the maids shouted from below. But it was too late. She fell down the stairs, her body hitting the wooden steps hard, then the floor. Blood began to pool beneath her dress. She didn't move. Panic erupted. "Call an ambulance! Hurry!" A staff member screamed, kneeling beside her, trembling hands trying to wake her. Ma'am, please wake up." When Samuel received the call from Mia, he immediately booked the earliest flight home. He didn't waste a second. He didn't care about the meetings he left behind in Europe, the time zone difference, or the exhaustion. Only one person was on his mind. Marcy. The flight was long, and every minute made him more anxious. When he finally arrived at the hospital, his chest felt like it might explode from the weight of worry. A nurse guided him to her room. Inside, he saw her, lying still, pale, lifeless in appearance. Her eyes were closed. She looked drained of everything. He walked to the side of her bed and sat. "Hey," he said softly, brushing her hair back. "How are you feeling?" She nodded faintly, not even looking him in the eye. "I just want to rest," she whispered, then closed her eyes again. Samuel gently touched her head and leaned forward to kiss her forehead. "Okay," he murmured. "You rest, love. I'm right here." He stayed by her side, holding her hand, heart pounding with fear. A few minutes later, the doctor entered the room to check Marcy's vitals. After finishing, Samuel asked quietly, "Doctor, can we talk outside?" The doctor nodded, and they stepped into the hallway. "How is my wife?" Samuel asked, voice low and tense. "She's stable now, Mr. Sanders, but she needs complete rest and no more stress from this point forward." Samuel nodded. "I'll make sure of it, but what exactly happened?" The doctor hesitated, then answered carefully. "She had a miscarriage." Samuel froze. "What?" he whispered, eyes widening. "She was pregnant," the doctor confirmed. "Very early. The fall caused the miscarriage, but honestly, the signs were already there. Her body had been under tremendous emotional and physical stress." "She never told me she was pregnant," Samuel said quietly, glancing back at her room. "She probably didn't know either," the doctor replied, "but her body gave out. Right now, what she needs most is emotional healing." The doctor nodded again and returned to his station. Samuel stood there for a long moment, then slowly walked back into Marcy's room. She was awake now, her eyes on him. There was fear in them, guilt, sorrow. He sat down beside her again. "The doctor told me everything," he said gently. Tears immediately welled in Marcy's eyes and spilled over as she shut them tight. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. I lost the baby. Our baby. Samuel wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. Hey, no, it's not your fault, he said, his voice trembling. Please don't say that. None of this is your fault. I should have been there. I should have protected you better. She cried harder, collapsing into his chest. I didn't even know I was pregnant. I've just been so tired, so overwhelmed. You're okay now. I'm here, Marcy. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her hair again and again, whispering comfort as she clung to him. The next day, Marcy's parents arrived from out of state. They were tired from travel, but concern filled their faces more than fatigue. Samuel greeted them with guilt heavy in his expression as he guided them into the hospital room. Seeing Marcy sleeping, they stepped back out with Samuel to the lounge. At first, no one spoke. Then Samuel broke the silence. I'm really sorry for what happened, he said, voice thick. I should have protected her. If I hadn't let her attend those events, if I had just handled things myself, maybe she wouldn't have been so stressed. Maybe she wouldn't have lost the baby. Marcy's mother looked at him kindly. You shouldn't blame yourself, son, she said gently. No one wanted this. It's not your fault. Her father nodded and placed a hand on Samuel's shoulder. And knowing our daughter, he added, I'm sure she wanted to do all of that. Marcy was never one to be forced into anything. She did it to support you, because she loves you. Samuel looked down. She loves me, yes, but she didn't have to go that far. She's already done so much. The two parents exchanged a glance. Then Marcy's mother gave a small, knowing smile. You don't know the whole story, do you? She asked. Samuel frowned. What do you mean? Her father exhaled and began. Even before you got married, even before she really knew you, she already loved you. When your company was going through that crisis, the scandal, the losses, she helped. Samuel looked stunned. Helped? How? She sold the land she inherited from her grandmother, her mother said. It was the only thing passed down in our family. She sold it and used the money to invest in your company. Samuel stared at them, speechless. She didn't even want credit, her father added. She just wanted to help. But why? Samuel whispered. She barely knew me. She believed in you, her mother answered, now with tears in her eyes. She admired you from afar. She believed someone like you deserved help, deserved to succeed. Samuel rubbed his face, stunned and overwhelmed. She worked hard to buy that land back, her father continued. She got a job to save money, but unfortunately, her boss took advantage of her appearance. That's when she started dressing down, to protect herself. Samuel's eyes welled with tears. He couldn't speak. She didn't tell you because she didn't want you to feel indebted, her mother said. She helped because she loved you, and she still does. Samuel's tears finally fell. She went through so much, and I never noticed. Her father squeezed his shoulder again. What matters now is that you're here. Be the man she believed in. Be the reason she keeps fighting. Samuel nodded, slowly but firmly. He looked back toward Marcy's hospital room, and in that moment, his heart fully woke up to the woman he had married. As Samuel sat beside his sleeping wife, the words of Marcy's parents replayed in his mind. With every detail he had just learned, the guilt inside him deepened. He made a silent vow. Starting that day, Marcy would never be hurt again. He would protect her at all costs. The next day, he arranged a meeting at a well-known cafe in the city. Across from him sat Ayanna Stanton. She was graceful as always, but there was a hint of discomfort in her eyes when she saw the seriousness in his. Thanks for meeting me, Ayanna said, with a polite smile. Samuel didn't smile back. I know what you've done. Ayanna's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me, he said, his voice cold and sharp. "I agreed to meet with you in Italy to ask, politely, that you stop engaging with posts about me and my wife. I told you we were over. I made that clear." "I did stop." "You agreed, yes, but then you went and humiliated her, publicly. You insulted her in front of everyone. You and your little circle of socialite friends." Ayana's expression flickered, the calm on her face cracking. "I could sue you," he continued, "but I know my wife. She's kind. She wouldn't want that, and you're not the only reason she ended up under so much stress." He leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "But listen to me carefully. If I find out you had anything to do with hurting her again, in any way, I won't think twice. Even if your career crumbles, I'll make sure you pay." He didn't wait for a response. He stood and walked away, leaving Ayana speechless at the table. Back at the hospital, Marcy sat quietly on the bed, gazing out the window at the sky. The door opened. Samuel entered with a bowl of warm soup and a soft smile on his face. He walked to her and placed the food on the tray in front of her. But this time, his eyes were more serious than usual. "I'll protect you from now on," he said softly as he held her hand. "I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. I promise. And I won't let you face the world alone." Marcy was touched. Though her body was still tired, she smiled faintly. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. Samuel leaned down and kissed her gently on the lips. The kiss was soft, but it carried so much emotion. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you." Marcy froze for a moment, visibly surprised. Then she looked into his eyes, trying to confirm what she'd just heard. Samuel smiled again. Tears welled up in his eyes. "I love you so much, my wife. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner, but I fell in love with you the moment I saw you walk down the aisle." Tears streamed down Marcy's cheeks, and she smiled as she whispered back, "I love you too." He pulled her into a deep embrace, firm and full of promise. Days later, as Marcy continued her recovery, Mia visited and told her quietly about the lawsuits Samuel had filed against the people who had spread malicious posts online. "He did it quietly," Mia said, while gently holding Marcy's hand. "He didn't want to stress you more. He just wanted to protect you." For the first time since the incident, Marcy smiled, genuinely, from the heart. Losing the baby still weighed on her. The pain was real, the grief lingering, but knowing Samuel never left her side and fought silently for her eased the sorrow. Together, they carried the weight, and because of that, the burden slowly became bearable. Weeks later, during dinner, Samuel spoke up. "There's something I've been meaning to do, something long overdue." "What is it?" Marcy asked, tearing a piece of bread. "I want to formally introduce you to the public as my wife," he said firmly. "No more hiding, no more questions, no more speculations. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be honored." The night of the Beaumont Corporation anniversary party arrived. The venue was grand, gold curtains, crystal chandeliers, and hundreds of business leaders and media personnel. Samuel stood on stage in his signature black suit, holding a microphone. "Good evening," he began. "Tonight we celebrate another successful year for our company. But before that, I want to do something more important, something personal." The room quieted, phones were raised, cameras pointed at him, curiosity buzzing. "Many of you have wondered about my private life, especially about someone you've seen, but never really noticed." He turned and smiled toward the side of the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my wife." Marcy stepped out slowly. She wore an elegant off-shoulder white gown, simple but classy. She had styled herself not to change who she was, but to show her true self. Eyes widened across the crowd. Mouths fell open. That was her, The woman they had mocked? Now she looked radiant, stunning even. Her beauty wasn't loud, but graceful, effortless, real. Is that really her? That's Mr. Sanders' wife? I can't believe it. She's so beautiful. Samuel took the mic again. She's not just my wife, he said. She's also the second owner of Beaumont Corporation. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. He hadn't just introduced her, he had given her his name, his legacy, half of everything. I hope you respect my wife, he said clearly, and those words were pointed. He walked to Marcy at center stage and took her hand. Their eyes met. In a room full of people, it felt like only the two of them existed. She's the woman I love, the one who stood by me even before all of this, and I'm proud to be her husband. Marcy stepped forward, smiling, and stood beside him. That night, the guests didn't just celebrate the success of a corporation. They witnessed a love that had been built through trials, and now stood tall in triumph. Before I end this speech, Samuel said on stage, still holding Marcy's hand, I just want to remind everyone of one thing. Behind every success story is someone who quietly held you together when the world tried to tear you apart. His voice was clear, unwavering, and in my life, that someone is her. The applause started slowly, then grew. People stood, guests, executives, and even media personalities clapped as they looked at Marcy. She stood beside him with her chin high, her posture poised. No one could see the woman they had once whispered about. No one could even imagine she had ever been mocked. She didn't look like a shadow anymore. That night was not just a public recognition of her place beside Samuel. It was the moment she was finally seen. After the event, as they walked through the halls of the venue, still hand in hand, people greeted them with new eyes. And Marcy? She smiled, not the kind that hides pain. This time, it was a smile full of peace. She had been through it all. She had endured the cruel whispers, the laughter behind her back, the brutal articles, and the shame. She had carried the burden of being not enough in a world that worshipped appearances. She had faced judgment, grief, heartbreak, and isolation. But tonight, she stood in the light, beside the man who had once been a stranger, but now truly her home. And when she looked at Samuel, she no longer questioned whether he was forced to love her, because now she knew. He did. The end. Did you enjoy the story? If yes, drop me a comment below. I am your friend Mr. Hope, your narrator. I love you all, especially those of who comment often. Until we meet again, take care.